Welcome back. Spirit were able to get the job done on Illuminar's choice, and now, Tom, we head to Dust 2. This was a map where, to be fair, Spirit looked pretty much their all good selves, so I'm not sure this bodes too well for the Polish team.
Yeah, I guess at least they get the side choice on a map that we pretty much always say the side choice is completely meaningless. If Illuminar managed to win this map, I'll be completely blown away. Like that's the fact of the matter. Like, it's one of their worst maps. I think their win percentage was something like 17%. Yep, 17. They've won once out of 6 maps, and that's against teams of like there's Pact in their existence. They lost to Nexus as well. Like they barely played a team anywhere near the level of Team Spirit on this map. So as I said, if they manage to pull this one through, I'll be absolutely blown away. But if we're being real, this is Team Spirit's to lose rather than Illuminar's to win.
Yeah, I think many people will echo that sentiment. The Spirit on the T side, looking to get the ball rolling early on. Jumping up, just checking to make sure no one's behind the car. Now they feel confident that angle can pretty much be bypassed. Good flash out, 2 players peek in. And the USPs at this range should come out ahead, but that smoke at least will keep them at bay for the time being. Snacks continues to tap, anticipating the push through the smoke, and now it comes in. Flashbangs are good. PHR goes back in for more. A lot of damage onto both teams, but nothing that's stuck fully for a frag. That will change now, though, with Sundai Young's Glock getting up close and personal with 2. And Veggie, although he's boosted up, he can't quite connect anything of his own. It's all going horribly wrong for Illuminar. Finally, they get their hands on a couple of kills, but is it too little too late? Perhaps not. Veggie passes a bullet between the window and the eyes of Idis Balance before Sundai Young nullifies him. It's all down to reach. Has no kit, no nades, no life. Spirit claim first blood on their choice.
That was a DM match. That's how we just began the game. It was whoever won with the close range shots. We had a sort of video earlier where we were talking about whether or not you choose the Glock or the USP. I think most cases always swing towards the USP, but that was not one of them. Right in the face of their opponents, the ability to spam off bullets as much as possible. And unfortunately for Illuminar, they just didn't quite land them until right near the end. I think Veggie hit a few pretty tasty shots, one straight through the car. Nice nade, though, from Mouse. Done a hell of a lot of damage, and he spotted the majority of the team as well. You could see instantly there's a rotation back from Illuminar to try and stack up a few more players on this side of the map. However, the T's are rotating all the way back towards the spawn.
As you say, though, that grenade, it puts them in range of all these guns. Back through the doors, up mid, and the second one. Idis Balance. Had his legs blown out beneath him. Snacks, though, who had a pretty poor train performance, is now took the head off of Chopper. Has all the right ideas, is narrowly off before Mia starts to put down some power and some pain towards Illuminar. But look at those health bars. That's all been from wallbangs. That's all been from Snacks in middle and that grenade earlier on.
Yeah, he had to miss a couple, of course, because he didn't want the same thing to happen to him that happened to Crims earlier today. So he made it look like, oh, yeah, no, I'm just spamming. But obviously, we all know that Snacks is within the realm of Avac with some of the shots he's just connected. Nonetheless, Mir, is he going to expect him? I don't think he will. So a freebie. He always seems to do this. Very sneaky, being able to get out the door and just wait patiently. Patience is not a strong suit of mine, but evidently a strong suit of him.
Spirit withstanding all the early damage, now looking good with sub 10 seconds to get the bomb plant and convert it into the round. That was a very thin line, though. A fine margin of error that Spirit nearly fell into. They're not going to want to hunt anytime soon, knowing that their economy isn't exactly fantastic. It does put them in awkward positions, fairly split up. Because of their low HP, they cannot really afford to get too close to the bomb. So you're seeing Mia maybe get out a little bit too aggressive for his own liking. Now trying to wrap around the back and join his teammates. And this is where Maus could start to put a bit more pain down. The timing, though, was so brutal. He had the right idea. The second that he changes his angle, he gets smacked in the head. Spirit do take the 2-0.
It happens to the best of us. Nice attempt from Snacks, though. A lot of wallbang shots being connected, and Unfortunately, they don't get any of the rewards. There'll be a small amount invested into this round, and he was one of the players both highlighted by us and the desk who didn't have the performance they needed. I don't want to put it all onto one player. I think a map like Train, especially when it comes down to that CT side, can be... Magix is just running with Julies. All right. But we sort of talk about them in pistol rounds, but this just looks like a flex. That was his first kill of the game as well. Now, somehow, they've ended up in a disadvantage. Although, pushing through this smoke, I don't really know how they'll get out of this alive. And in fact, Mir's started to go hunt down some of the remaining players. It does leave the site a little bit vulnerable, but with the weaponry that's currently in play for Illuminar, chances are they won't get too much more done. Although, that's the third kill. In a round where we normally talk about, okay, one death in a round like this is acceptable. To have 3, definitely not. And Magic's very low on HP as well. Could be the 4th. It would be even worse if somehow some Young loses this battle, which he does. And that could be an AK into his hands if he can get to it.
That's actually a really good round from Illuminar.
They had 2
Additionally,
teams.
mate, PHR landed an absolute blinder of a headshot onto Magix. I think it was through the door, through middle, after he sprayed down Snacks on the box. Now, even though Spirit are 3-0 up, have a look at that economy. If Illuminar were to take this round, it instantly puts Spirit on the back foot. This is a really interesting moment. This is a fulcrum point on Dust 2. So early on, long control has been taken by both teams, and it's Veggie that comes out ahead, claiming first blood before he gets destroyed and dispatched with haste. It's all gone pear-shaped again. Illuminar are forced away back onto the site in the form of Snacks.
They're going to need him to go big here. Again, we talk about Spirit. Many teams at the moment will consistently battle for long, look to take that control and negate it if necessary. Magix, it almost looked like he gave him a chance there. He went, I want you to look in my eyes before I kill you. Mouse, this is a bold play, but they need one. They need to try and fight this. They're in such a huge disadvantage. They know that they've also lost B, but the timing works out for Snacks. We mentioned him being quiet. Oh, a chance there. Almost manages to connect the final shot, and in fact, it looks like the T's are now going to go hunting. They've sort of baited him into thinking that they're going in the other direction. This should now be a save.
They tossed the bomb across, and Snacks did actually catch that. And yeah, the save does come in with only 11 HP. Had he have connected that shot on long, he absolutely stands his ground. But realizing that this is slipping away, he has to just pull the plug. Spirit did lose another 3 players, though, so it's not as if they've fully got on top of their economic situation. The problem here for Illuminar is, can you reasonably justify a force buy knowing that if you do concede again, you've kind of screwed yourself over? It's a very awkward position with the saved gun on Snacks. Their round loss bonus is starting to build up. He could drop a weapon. They must know that Spirit's economy is in a weird position. I'm very curious what the Polish team does. I could even justify a tactical timeout here.
Yeah, why not? Even if it wasn't like a huge economic decision, you have just lost 4 rounds in a row. So it's not a bad time to just try and slow the momentum. It's something we talk about an awful lot when it comes to this map, is like what teams will actually do based off spawns. And if you are winning rounds in streaks, a lot of the time, you're going to just continue to try and take these early battles. Instead, though, it seemed like it wasn't even a question for them. They've just gone straight in, looking for the tiny gap over the top of the door to try and find some sort of opener. And although we do see the loss of PHR, at a trade for Mir and the AWP still standing, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, typically a 1-for-1 trade you don't really want on the CT side, but in situations like this, you will take them. Keep the Snacks player alive with the AWP. The AWP player, I should say, and now Illuminar can back away. Yeah, and I also like as well, Tom, you know, we kind of bring up the idea, do they go for this force? Do they try and play to Spirit's weaknesses? I do like they didn't fully panic and just go in for a buy, you know, this kind of desperation play. They have full confidence in not only their ability to take this round, but additionally, even if they do go 5-0 behind, they got full belief they can still bring this game back. So that's good to see. Unfortunately, though, they have lost the second player. They still maintain the AWP, which has always been the power play, always the weapon that could do the magic. And to be fair to Snacks, although he was very disappointing on Train, I'd say the early signs here have been pretty good for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not been so good for everyone else. It is, again, it's the stat that Vu came up with before and mentioned that in the start of the game, it wasn't the case, but towards the end, it was. It's like when one of the stars shines, it seems like it's almost at a cost of another player, which, well, that's not a healthy team dynamic if only one of you is able to thrive. Unless maybe you're like Vitality and that one player is Zywoo. Like, then I can kind of go, maybe that will still work if someone's going to be dropping a crazy 40 bomb. But for a lot of teams, it doesn't. Like, you even talk about, again, like going back to Apex earlier in the tournament, going back to like Forrester performing very well when it came to Namiga. When they didn't, each of those teams has been eliminated because it seemed like they would consistently have one or two players thriving and the rest not quite being able to perform well enough. And that's one thing that I think Spirit and actually Gambit seem to do better than anybody is there is always depth within these teams. Like if you'd have, say, for example, in the last map, Sumda Young missing, then you have someone like Magix, you have someone like iDisbalance, Mir, who can step up to the plate, and the same the other way around. And again, you look at the Gambit, like there was a map that we watched where Shiro was almost completely missing. Nafani top frags, gets an ace with the dual Berettas. Like there's so much depth to those two rosters. That's why I think the polls need to have that ability to get a few of these players online. And that was also something we saw suffer with old VP. Like there were times where you had Pasha as one of the best players in the world. You had Snacks as one of the best players in the world. Even Mihu was performing to a high standard at points, yet we never really saw that team at the very, very top.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole meme, right? It was the Virtus plow, or they would just completely go off the boil. You never knew what to expect from them. Consistency certainly was not something that you really saw too often. So you're seeing elements of that on Illuminar as well. Snacks is kind of personifying that in the last couple of maps, but we'll see if you can continue to be solid. Their patience and not snatching at their opportunity has afforded them 2 AWPs, and they have saved over the AK from the previous round. So in terms of a buy, couldn't really ask for too much better here. But can they make it work? Early damage suggests maybe they can. iDisbalance and Sumda Young both have been winged. Snacks now going for that peak, susceptible to being flashed, and he's all alone. And I think he just realizes, okay, look, I need to stay alive on this A site. If I fall, that is a huge gap that comes with me. 45 seconds, Spirit now starting to apply the pressure.
Looking at Magix right now, currently with bomb in hand, he's going to try and lead the charge. Just dropped out into the open, but luckily it falls straight onto a teammate's back, and the timing of their split through B was almost flawless. Like, it doesn't really get much better than that. Like, you look at these sort of rounds, I suppose, from a very naive perspective, and you go, oh, you know what? Spirit just walked through there, they hit their shots, they win the round. But you look at the timing of their push. Couple of players go through mid, another drops down off of Cat straight through the smoke to get the flank on the players in mid, and at the exact same time another player hits B. It doesn't really get much better than that. It also does help that a lot of them did win their duels, but there was contingency plans. Like even if one of them missed, like for example Magix going for the entry, there was another player and a response coming from multiple different angles. And well, when you look at it in whole, Illuminar didn't stand a chance.
It's one of those points that they discussed. The Snacks maybe shut down in the back at the timing. Again, working against Illuminar. Very unfortunate. But I mean, Spirit have basically created their own luck when it comes to their plays. They deserve to reap what they've sown. But it was all about, you know, maybe a slow start, Spirit coming in cold on train. Well, I think it's safe to say that they've warmed up nicely. It's Illuminar now that feel like they have to dip into their first tactical timeout. 6-0 behind. They've got an AK saved. Across from that, though, there's not a lot to really pick from. And they have been comprehensively outgunned, outplayed, outmaneuvered at every turn here, Tom. Like, I can't even look at this and think, well, they could have had this round or that round. No, they've been pretty much destroyed.
Yeah, I think the only round I can really think of that they stood a chance was if Snacks had got a 4K with that AWP, which that's not a good sign. Like, you don't want to sit there and go, well, if this player had basically killed everybody, then maybe they'd have a round on the board, because you could say that about any match of Counter-Strike ever. So, yeah, I think so far, as said, it looks like Spirit are just having an easy time of things, but their Dust 2 T side is really enjoyable to watch. Like, they are very well timed with a lot of the pushes. The utility they use makes things very awkward for teams. And they're also quite dynamic, which is something that's quite difficult on Dust 2 because, well, we've seen everything ever on Dust 2 in pretty much every map. Like, it is very easy for teams to sort of work out what you're doing because it's been played a million times over the last, what, like 10 years or whatever it is, more than that. So realistically, to almost catch teams off guard at this point comes down to just you doing very well within the server, because Illuminar would have seen everything they've done before.
Yeah, I think this is where IGLs that can make spur of the moment on the fly calls are really worth their weight in gold. You see it a lot on Dust 2. Timing, they nearly lined up for a 2-for-1. Snacks though has Veggie alongside him. That's great. That's exactly what Illuminar were looking for. That two-man hit squad has reaped 3 plays and dropped down the bomb. Chopper and Mia completely isolated from one another. And the spray is good. Not good enough to yield the kill, but the grenade nearly finishes off what Veggie started. Mia taking some mid-control, waiting for a potential rotation, but it's not forthcoming, and Illuminar know that they have all the chips on their side of the table. Let's not go all in and overextend and throw it away. That's exactly what Veggie's done.
And luckily for them, I don't even think there's enough time for anything to really be done, unless they're just going to run the gauntlet straight onto the A site. And even then, it's going to be incredibly close for them to get the bomb down. You're looking at about 3.5 seconds just to try and get it through. And, well, we'll never know if he was going to make it or not, because Snacks denies the chance. Good round from Illuminar, but it still gets too close for comfort. And we've mentioned it throughout this series, the fact that finances seem to be a big issue for them when it came to their CT side, constantly having to have these half buys, weaker buys, tough decisions of whether or not they buy. Well, this is going to be another one. The thing I like about this round that differed from many others is they had a mid-round re-aggression onto long. So they didn't just sit there and wait for their opponents to come to them. They tried to take some control back, which we haven't really witnessed from them thus far in the map. The problem, however, now is that there is still a buy on the other side, but this has started very well. Snacks gets the opener, damage done onto Chopper as well, and we're looking for a team spirit response.
We'll be desperate for a response. That money again in awkward shape, as we touched on. And when Train and Dust 2 are your first 2 maps in the best of 3, finances will always play a huge part, a huge fixture, as those AWPs on the CT side in particular will be coming through thick and fast. There's 2 of them in play again. PHR being tagged. Idis Balance has already lost his life. And reach round the back. Mio never anticipating that. Even with the sound cue, couldn't have been sure. It's not a play that's going to happen too often. So Illuminar, through just some super aggressive plays, now have a 2-player advantage and looking much better.
And maybe getting the wind back in their sails, but again, we're talking about Snacks just taking matters into his own hands. He gets the opener, he now re-peeks in. And as I said, the last round, the thing that was so successful was their re-aggression. Not being scared to fight in some of these situations. It's something you can definitely expect to see from Spirit over on their CT side as well. I still stand by the fact that although we've seen a lot of development from this roster before, when it was like a Vega Squadron, or at least a few of the players were on Vega Squadron, the thing with that team that's still stuck is that Chopper will happily W key through any situation and somehow still make it work. Like, that's still one of the first maps that we casted was him doing that on Nuke when they just weren't able to win rounds on their CT side versus Flow Scholar. He just goes running into the lobby. Now on this map, you will see him push into the lower tunnels and maybe even up to top mid in certain situations on their CT side. And I'm happy to see that now Illuminar are starting to get a little bit more confident to make similar sort of plays, be it mostly off the back of Snacks.
Yeah, mentioning just the W through everything, I'm curious when Spirit do pull the trigger and get really aggressive. In terms of this round, they will be mollied out. They didn't have great spawns anyway, and the fact that they've gone in with a scout and an AWP suggests it's probably not going to be as much of a run and gun round. But I'm curious when Spirit decide, okay, look, let's mix this up. Let's get hot and heavy. We know that they have 2 AWPs. Close the gap. Smoke them off. Pick off the stragglers. Aggression through the smoke nearly yields the kill onto Mia. Maus, who was the top fragger, keep in mind, on both teams in the first map with 27 kills, has had a very rough start. Only one to his name. PHR on the cross, misses a sip of a shot, gets to the second time of asking. He may not get punished for that first whiff, but Team Spirit now closing the gap, and Idis Balance knocks him off his perch of window. And now Spirit can get on the site.
Gonna boost up. It gives a slight gap over the door, but nobody really peeking into that direction. And now this becomes a little bit tougher. There is some utility available for the side of Illuminar, but that's a tasty shot from Idis Balance. He's ready for the boost and just watching the door. I think at this point they might have to think about just saving their weaponry, because with him watching on that angle, you're not going to get past a double for him already, and Magix looks to strike right behind them. Amir will eventually close this out. Great round from Spirit. Bear in mind, they didn't have much utility. They even had weaponry missing, Vince, as you mentioned, and they make that look very easy.
Yeah, I love this so much. He finally sees him, just flicks across. And I reckon that may have been a call additionally. It was Magix that was up close when he would have heard the AWP scoping in. Maybe have called that like AWP on doors. And eventually Idis Balance is like, hold on a second, no one's pushed yet. The angle suggests that he must be having a peek in. Let's check the angle, let's check the boost spot. Smacks his head off. And now instantly, after Illuminar finally gets some success, you're starting to think maybe Spirit have run out of steam. All those finances we were talking about really come into play. Illuminar can get a buy, but they're going to have so little cash in surplus. This is, I would say right now, Tom, like a do or die situation. They have got to make this work.
Well, they say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Magix brings two guns instead, it seems, as he goes for his dually kills. But yeah, financially, this is not a good spot for Illuminar. Scoreline-wise, it's not a good spot for Illuminar. And this is also a map where I'm not sat there worried about what we're going to see from the CT side of Spirit, for example. I think they're going to be strong no matter what. And, well, you mentioned a pace change. I was speaking about it. The W key of this side, it comes in now. Fantastic nade from PHR to at least whittle them away. The problem is they have no presence on this site anymore. And you're not winning this after plant position. In fact, you might not even get out of here alive. Idis Balance is still going to be waiting at the top of mid with an AWP. They've left him behind. And a nice little change. Again, we talk about AWPs in these sort of rounds and go, okay, if you're going for a fast-paced round, you don't really want an AWP. Well, in the style of Team Spirit, they go, okay, we're going to just leave our AWP as a lurker. PHR, I don't know how he wins that, but it won't be well, long-lasting. He's quickly removed by Idis Balance, and they're looking to get rid of all of the weaponry here. The money for Spirit's not amazing, though, Vince, so they don't want to throw too much into the blender.
I suppose at this point, though, you look at the overall rounds and you think, is the risk worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. At least chop this life in. Now, we know the guy is a pretty phenomenal, aggressive player. Snacks, though, who's been in fine form on Dust 2. Oh, the second is well onto Idis Balance. And if he can now put that AWP to use with his 12 kills alongside it and somehow dig Illuminar out of this ditch, that saved gun could be everything for the Polish team. They at least have something, Tom. The alternative would have been nothing but just pistols.
Wow. Mouse is cursed this time. Interestingly to go... Well, obviously he's the best analyst in the world, or self-proclaimed, I should say. But what we did see, the bottom fragger of the last map was Snacks. He's now top fragging, so Vu, you have been proven right so far. It seems like now Mouse and him have completely switched places. Maybe they've just sat in different chairs. They have like one nice chair over in the Illuminar office, and only one of them gets to play with it. Or they've got a few different mice on offer and just keep switching every single game. Who knows? But whatever it is, it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, they need to supply both players with a special mice, apparently. Only one can shine at any given moment. Open up the curtains, Illuminar. Let the light in. It has been dulled momentarily, though, again from Spirit. I say momentarily, to be honest, it has been a pretty consistent theme that Illuminar have been put to sleep time and time again. Spirit looking good, not just for a 9-2, but in all honesty, a bare minimum 10 rounds on this half, and it could easily get into nightmare territory for Illuminar. I mean, the 13-2 scoreline, honestly, Tom, I would not be surprised if we reached that mark.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think going into this one, I don't think anybody would have believed that they were going to win Dust 2. It is statistically their worst map, and it is statistically Spirit's best map. And when we're talking about the sort of different teams in terms of their caliber, Spirit also outranked them quite significantly. It was never going to be a game that I realistically expected them to win. They beat Apex 16-5 on this map earlier in the tournament. They've beaten teams like 16-1. They beat FaZe 16-8 last month. Like, they are a very good Dust 2 team. So it is a worry.
Illuminated screens, love that. Thing is, though, that does paint a bit of a bleak picture, Tom, that you're getting so much success with flashbangs and yet you still lose the map. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there.
Magics don't need no flashes. Right? He was the top fragger, right? And he was just walking out Ivy on his own. So unless he's flashing for himself, but that gives the game away. Again, we're going to see this battle for long. 3 members of the Illuminar side looking to try and challenge, but, well, he didn't need them when it came down to Ivy on train. It doesn't seem like he needs them when he pushes out long either. And I just balance, wow. He's just waiting. And this is the thing. At this point, you have to expect Mir to be here. If you ever play against Team Spirit and you haven't checked that spot, you're making a massive mistake. Because I think he's played more than half the map from that exact position. He just keeps wandering out mid and just sitting in that corner. Maybe he's got like a little one of those like fold out chairs that you just place out when you're by the campfire. And he just watches for anybody trying to come around the corner. And he's still catching kills there. And that's a problem. Like, Illuminar have got to be predicting this. Maybe they are, and it's just that, well, you can't quite kill off Mir easily, but nonetheless, that's not a position you see many players get into often, and he's doing it all the time. They waited.
3-player stack in mid. They finally got their man, Tom. They got him. Mission accomplished. Need to definitely pull out a few more accolades, though, if they're going to bring this game back. Solid trade. Reets onto Magic. A lot of health has been lost, and so is Mouse on the site. With his death, the A side may follow, but have a look at where the bombs drop. This is going to take a while before Spirit can retrieve that and get any reprieve for this middle aggression that Illuminar are tossing in. Reeds now had a chance. Comes out worse for wear in that trade, and now combined between the two of Illuminar, 29 HP. Do have the AWP in the very capable hands of Snacks, but now his support structure has been taken away from him. The foundation's knocked out. But he's proving that one pole can stand toe-to-toe against 3 of Spirit. Thing is now, though, with the post plant, knowing he has to come out into the open, there's not really any hope, but it's such a brutal decision to make. The likelihood of going for a save when you're 10-2 behind in a 1-on-2. Nearly Chopper walks into the blender, but instead, the blades were dulled. Spirit have 11 rounds, and Illuminar will at least have a bye. But Tom, surely they've got to win the next 2 rounds. Like, at least 4 is somewhat workable if you get the second pistol. But even that squeaking by.
It's a good thing that you're here instead of either Blair or Vu, because I think at least you've got that small little bit of optimism, which I don't have. I think this is done. Like, Illuminar would have to almost complete 180. Mauser's got 1 kill. He's had absolutely no impact in this game so far. Snacks started off very well, but most of the impact he's had over the last few rounds are once the round's already done. Like, we saw him get like a couple of aggressive kills towards long, but recently it's been, how can I save this AWP? It's like he's been reading the book of James. So I am, I'm almost calling this one here, but you never know. Like, there's been miracles from the Polish scene pulled out before. Some of the craziest comebacks in Counter-Strike definitely go to their name, and Snacks was part of a legendary roster, but they need to be implementing him better. He needs to be in a position where he can do damage, because sure, he's 14-8, he's been hitting a lot of shots, but they're not winning rounds, so it doesn't matter.
Even with his 14 kills right now, by the way, he has only just gone even with Mouse's overall amount of kills on train. So it goes to show how one-sided the kill distribution was on the side of Illuminar. 35 seconds. I've got to keep the optimism, Tom. I've got to believe. Although I do agree, I think it's unlikely. Snacks, though, gets the first, gets picked off on the approach back onto the side. Reeks now spraying in, gets 2. That should be good enough. Chopper with the Tech 9 switches across, and Suntai Young is cutting off any kind of support. The cavalry has ran into the spears. Chopper, integral kill. So important that Veggie takes that one down. And now Suntai Young doesn't really have time. Doesn't have the bomb, and he's gone down to the hands of Veggie. Illuminar maybe having a rallying cry to come back and finish with 4.
I've not been one to critique Team Spirit too much in this game because there hasn't been much to critique, but there have been some very overly aggressive plays coming out from this side, and most of the times they have worked. This is evidence of one that didn't. Like, Chopper had the bomb there and goes swinging out with 10 seconds left to try and kill off the remaining player. If he gets an afterplant for sure with Suntai Young coming in from behind, that is easily a 50-50 round, maybe even slightly more in their favor than anything, but he wants the kill, doesn't get it, and things slip away from him. Obviously, there's the argument that maybe the player could have denied the bomb from like a jumping shot or pushing him quickly, but I think the risk versus reward in that situation wasn't worth it. Nice flashbang, though. Snacks now picking up more of a supportive role. Their battles for long have been some of the smallest successes they've had, and those microaggressions have handed them a man advantage. The same case, though, mid-control, given for free, and this has been a safe haven almost for Team Spirit throughout this match. They have been gifted this position for the majority of rounds, and they're going to try and utilize it here.
Battle through the smoke. We'll see Reeks knocked down to 8, doing minimal damage. Nearly lined up. Iris Balance actually was headshot through Chopper. Down to 10, he will fall. Just about alive by the slimmest of margins. This time Snacks is able to fully retreat. Good flash. Spray's not on point. Snacks stays alive with 22.
Again?
We've been here before. Nia cutting them off time after time. And Illuminar keep falling for it. Fortunately, though, Tom, for Illuminar, they're doing so much work elsewhere that it may not end up mattering.
Oh, that's a kill. Mir's nade lands in. He's ready for the flank as well. Does he look away? No, he doesn't, but the headshot angle's not quite going to work out for him. They might have missed him earlier in the round, but they'll get the kill for their 4th. And now we go off to a break as Illuminar fight for survival.
Shaking
Spirit running a train on Illuminar for 2 maps in a row. This way more one-sided, though, than the first map, and this, the choice of Spirit. As we expected, it would always be an uphill climb and struggle for Illuminar. Now they find themselves in the T half. They've at least gave themselves a lifeline, gave themselves a little bit of hope, but that could be quickly snuffed out if they are unsuccessful in this second pistol.
It seems like both teams almost ready for each team's counterplay. They're patiently waiting for the aggression. And while the CT side are ready to try and find them on the other side, Mir is going to meet his maker with a bullet from Mouse. He's doubled his kills. He's matched his first half. See if he can pull it back a little bit more. He did well on the other side of things. That's the bomb, though. Dropped almost perfectly. Flashbangs coming in from Chopper. A nigh on perfect, but they will be able to retrieve the C4. And look at the A side, Vince. It's almost perfectly clean, but what is that? 2 instant headshots, seemingly not even stopping as they run through. Well, now this becomes a massive problem for Illuminar. Perfect positioning from Magix. Always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And Reetz, wow, I'm sure he'd want a better clutch situation than this.
Yeah, this is looking a little bit grim, especially considering that they got the first pick in the round. So he went off to Catwalk to try and prove to be a foundation for an A hit. Now the last man standing without any Kevlar flash to his side. I do love that, though. You mentioned this before, that it always feels like Spirit are a step ahead. They have these contingency plans. Magix was watching middle. He saw nobody cross over to Xbox, and that allowed Spirit to go aggressive into tunnels, knowing that they were likely down to lower tunnel side. Catches them off guard. As I'm speaking, Reetz had his chance. It's gone by. He will deny the knife, at least, for Magix in midair. Nice shot. Deserved, by the way. That's a scumbag move. And now Spirit will lead 12-4.
But Boris the Cleaver coming to get him. Oh, God. Yeah, the thing is, though, it's just the manner of the way they managed to close out that pistol round. Like, I think they knew that their opponents were going to try and run back to the A side. And again, if they get to lower tunnels, Illuminar probably do manage to take that round. So, again, good re-aggression coming out from Spirit. Nothing invested at all. No bomb plant, of course, but this is a chance for Boris to get himself a few extra kills. Never mind, he's been slaughtered. Double trouble after the knife attempt. And, well, Chopper to maybe pad those stats a little bit himself. This is a little bit costly in terms of a player being lost. They don't want to lose anything else, especially with the rifles on the majority of the remainder, but they clean things up quite easily. Well, for Illuminar, this is it, Vince. They lose this round and we can almost say GG. I think we said it pretty much in the last half when we saw Team Spirit get to 11. Maybe I called it a little bit early, but wow. If the polls in chat still believe, I'm sure Vince still believes. He always loves a crazy comeback, you know, like QB Fire coming back versus Mouse Sports. Good times.
Classic. Yeah, I've got to keep the dream, you know, the hope that maybe Illuminar can get this done. But I mean, the realist and, you know, being just straight up 100%, it is so unlikely. But this is their last chance. I mean, I think you've painted that picture beautifully, Tom, and they'll know it too. A lot of pressure riding on this, and that grenade does over 100 HP, $300 well spent. There's a second one tossed in, doesn't do anywhere near as much. But that's mainly because Illuminar just pushed the panic button and got the hell out of there.
Yeah, nothing's ever good as good the second time around, right? We've seen it once. Come on, you can't try and steal that out of the playbook. No more HEs to be had, but there is an incendiary still for Mir available. Bear in mind that although this buy isn't a weak one from Spirit, it's definitely weaker than what we would normally see based off some of that extra money being saved. I just balance could potentially bring in some sort of AWP in the next round if it did all go wrong, but looking like we're going to see the split through. Bam, already from Chopper, though, has dropped the first man into the site. Magix does get overwhelmed. But Chopper, still going strong, even turns to Long to try and close the remainder, but fails. The trades have come in quickly from the side of Illuminar. A bomb planted for Long. Some Dayoung trying to make his way back through. He's had a much better dust too than what we saw previously. And Reitz has to be careful because his opponent, Emir, is already looking to make his way through short. And I think they might have just missed the timing on Sum Dae-young. He's still there behind. A flank coming from Snacks, though. It was great on Train. It might be even better on Dust 2 as he drops one of the remaining men and leaves Sum Dae-young out in the open. Not a lot of time to play with. Needs the shot instantly and gets nothing for it. Another fantastic flank from Snacks, and it gifts them a 5th.
Do enjoy that Sum Dae-young though was more playing for frags than opposed to necessarily winning the round. Obviously, that's the end goal. But he knows that in terms of the weaponry and the economy of Illuminar, still not great. He wants to try and take as many guns down as possible. Spirit, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have been surprised if they actually tried to force up in this round. But when you've got a vast lead of 13-5, why would you throw it away? Just play to your own strengths, play for the bigger picture. Headshot instantly has been repelled by Mouse, who survives with 5. And now Snacks, who's already posted up 20, is moving in with the bomb. In first, by the way. This is something, if we see against weapons later on, could be a bit of an issue. Won't be for this round's use misses. And Illuminar have got their 6th.
Yeah, one that was basically saving to wait to get this in. Looking to get the double AWP, and interestingly, one of them's going to be onto Sum Dae-young. Now, we normally talk about Magics. He even said it in an interview that he enjoys picking up that secondary AWP, but unfortunately, because of players like iDisbalance, he doesn't get to do it all of the time. This time, he's going to be on a FAMAS instead. So we'll see how this works for them. Seemingly, the pick play is a big part of their style, but obviously for Sum Dae-young, this is a positional choice. He's at the back of the B site, wanting to look through the tunnel and find the picks if they try to go in that direction. It doesn't look like there's going to be too much love for him in this round, though, as mid presence is being challenged initially. You can see the remaining T's currently sat at the top of mid, potentially going to try and go for some sort of short play.
Locking it down with a molly, making sure no one's behind the staircase. Will be heard by Spirit, who look to throw in a smoke, just to stop any fast shenanigans. Crossed in by Chopper. Distinct lack of utility, though. Only one smoke and incendiary remain on the CT side of things. So Magix takes the initiative, pushes into long doors. This actually alleviates some of the pressure elsewhere, allowing them to perch into position with iDisbalance on the car. They have Chopper, who's watching CT and middle simultaneously. Many teams on their approach will drop a player or two down in towards CT side, as they've done just here. It has been smoked off. So far, so good for Illuminar to get onto the side. iDisbalance missing a couple of timing windows, perhaps. Flashbang doesn't really affect him, but they still get across to the site. Playing for the retake, Magix gets one. Chopper deals with Reitz, who is hiding in the smoke, hoping and praying for the best. His prayer's not answered, and Spirit now looking to press in. They do still have Snacks alive, though. He's the man on 4, maybe with a point to prove after that Train performance, and now it'd be a golden opportunity to do just that, but he's been whittled away to 47 HP, shrapnel all around him. Mouse is starting to wake up, though. That slumber has been swept aside. Waiting in with Snacks, who goes in with the AK, and that probably is the round done, Tom. There's not enough time. Nice headshot from Mia, but it's a consolation kill.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. If you look at the map during that initial take, I'm a bit confused as to what Spirit thought were going on. Because from our perspective, right, you see iDisbalance. He's watched multiple players cross to the A site. He's seen a hell of a lot of grenades thrown in. And there were 2 players still just sat on B, didn't budge. Even with Magix pushing all the way through long, coming in looking to go behind them, I think they just got caught off guard by the fact that the execution came almost purely through short. So they still weren't sure whether to commit to the rotation. And because of that, even with the couple of kills, as we noted at the end, they just ran out of time. So they had to try and rust some of the protocols that might take them a little bit longer. Also, some great shots finally connected from Mao. As I said, he had a really poor first half. They're going to need him to come back here. And, well, he's caught out Mir. Of course, this round for Spirit, it's a weaker buy. And the last one as well definitely had a few pieces missing when it came to utility, hence the retake being pretty tough in those sort of situations. But though, even while burning alive in the car wreckage, still going to manage to get himself a kill.
of an oversight there on Illuminar. They threw in the Molotov. They threw a couple of bullets towards the car and almost just said, well, it's clear. There's no way he could still be there. And then the Deagle did the talking for Magix. It is the only bit of success, though, that Spirit have had in this round. As you already touched on, though, it's not a great buy, so it's all about the next one. Sundai Young takes a Molotov. CZ darting away. Would have been heard from Veggie, who was just above him on the catwalk. And now in position, Mouse will be looking to get another one. But Sundai Young gets 2, makes this costly. Only 6 HP left, but he can now have the opportunity to save the AWP. And this should never have came into play.
Nah, my CZ doesn't work like that. He's bought like some sort of upgrade that I don't know about. Have they launched the new operation and it comes with weapon buffs? Is that's ridiculous. Like that, the CZ's not meant to do that. Well, we're gonna get a new thing soon where people start realizing the CZ's overpowered again, aren't we? Because that makes little to no sense. And yeah, a free AWP. For Team Spirit, it's a bonus because going into the next round, their money would have been stacked anyway. They've saved up the extra cash to get the weaponry into play no matter what. But Illuminar are starting to get a few rounds together. I don't think they'll be too happy with how that one ended, especially knowing that it was just pistols in play. So it's a bit of a disappointment for them. But when it comes down to it at this point, so far behind after the first half, just getting the rounds on the board, stringing a few together, gaining a little bit of confidence individually, even for players like Mouse, who, as said, has not been great so far. That could be enough to start changing the tide, especially with how good Snacks and actually Veggie. I think Veggie's been silently sort of chugging along, getting some pretty high impact frags even on their CT side in rounds they won. If they can truly get rolling and we can get that trifecta of players performing, maybe they can bring this back on the T side.
I love it. Tom's beginning to believe as well. He's seen...
Won't go that far.
The light. Well, at least you're entertaining the idea. That's all I ask. Well, maybe that was misfounded. Misplaced. As Sundai Young with the AWP. All the timing. Mia just goes straight round the corner. No flash. Nothing to telegraph that peak. And Reitz will be fuming. Because Illuminar was starting to build their way back into the match. Gets splattered and pummeled in middle, putting more pressure on Mouse, PHR, and Veggie, who are all clumped up on catwalk. Honestly, Idis Balance only needs to get 1 kill, and that's probably enough. He gets it easily, actually can stay in position to potentially get a second. They can try and drop down into CT, but in doing so, they'll be moving into their peril, into their demise. Idis Balance doesn't care about smokes. He doesn't respect that at all. He'll just pull the trigger. And not only will Spirit likely take this round, but it's hard to see how PHR will get any kills on his way out, which will be coming up now. Bit of damage. There's Mir on the approach. Spirit 14, Illuminar 8, and their money in really awkward position alongside it.
Yeah, you see the latter round takes of short as well being almost polar opposite to what we saw in their early takes. Like this was a change-up plan. Like they initially wanted to try and battle into middle, get destroyed, and after using a lot of their utility, they go into that second take with 1 smoke. Now note the difference being that when they tried this previously, they had not only the smoke that drops down into CT to sort of quell rotations, but they also had that little smoke that people have been leaving on the boxes, which give you an angle to try and peek into that AWPer with giving you somewhat of a one-way. Like you could still kind of be detected over it, but it's a lot harder for them to see. In this case, they had to dry peek Idis Balance, which is something I will never, ever recommend.
Interesting stat, but it should be mentioned that one of the reasons that were the case is Snacks was primarily using the AWP, where you're typically going to be getting those frags with center mass shots to the chest. Goes to show how well Snacks was doing in that first half, albeit with only 2 headshots. Meanwhile, though, Spirit, they do have to contend with some MAC-10s and more of a run-and-gun approach. They'll be using it to their effect. Sundai Young, 19 kills now, has to hold the line. He's not alone, though. He has Mia, he has Chopper, and Mia comes in straight through with the AK and is spraying down as many foes as his magazine will allow him. Lots of damage from the backside of Snacks, who will feel a bit unfortunate and a bit unlucky that he didn't at least make one of those kills stick, but now he is. Snacks is showing his hand darting in the air at Illuminar. Live to fight another day.
Oh, I think even every once in a while you just zoom in on some Young's face and you see even he's just like, Oh yes, that one was amusing to me. Like it definitely wasn't impressed, but this is what we wanted to see from Mouse. This is trained Mouse coming back to form. Definitely not sticking with that headshot percentage anymore. Max, he's been connecting shots all day. Only had a P250 in the last round because he was trying to save some extra cash. That was a few Mac 10s as they went charging into the site. I also do question how some Dayoung's or Bullet managed to miss every single player. Like a little bit unlucky with the initial shot, but nonetheless, they've come back in with a decent buy. Still got that double AWP setup, which has been pretty problematic for the T side so far, but they've got their utility back. And as said, when they go for these proper executions onto the A site, they have actually been pretty good at getting after plants. It's mainly just whether or not Team Spirit have everything available to retake, which in this round they won't. It'll be a couple of HEs, smoke, and some flashbangs, and there's still a minute left on the clock. If it gets to a retake, they have very little for it.
That's important to highlight, absolutely. And so these first skirmishes are going to be of paramount importance. They have passed the first test, and it's Mao's the man that seems like he's rekindled his partnership with Kills. That has now been annulled and divorced once again. Chop around the back, though, sweeping into position, round the back of Catwalk. He doesn't have to show his hand. Lidis balances, nullifying all the aggression, separating the pack, and now Chopper shows his hand, and it's just that crunch that we know Spirit always have up their sleeve. To be fair, they've not overused this tactic either. That's probably why Illuminar were just so caught out by it.
This first kill from Idis Balance is that purely has to be communication coming through from a teammate, because the plan there from Illuminar was to push CT, pressure him from 2 different angles, and he wide peaks the initial one to make sure that there's no way they can do that. He completely sections off their play, ruins their day, and potentially sends them out of the tournament. Mir now starting to get aggressive around this mid position. A nice shot from Veggie keeps a little bit of hope, but Magix is slamming them back into the ground. It's left onto Mouse. He needs a miracle. Well, he does find the cheeky Deeg to start things off. But there's 3 players to find, a bomb to retrieve, and a minute 20 to do it.
Yeah, that low HP really will be an issue, especially with the Molotov. Can't afford to push through it. He will just straight up die. That really only positive is that time. Maybe he can play some mind games and hope that Spirit get a little bit too antsy and push into a bad spot. Can try and divide the 3 of them down the middle. If he does just wide swing this dry, he is going to go down more than likely. HE tossed to the back of the site. There's no weakened players that can finish off. Softens up Magix a little bit, but all things considered, that won't be good enough. Smoke onto Catwalk, and these are the mind games I'm talking about. Now he can start to try and repel around the side. If he can deal with Sam Dayoung, who does have an AWP, maybe there's a way forward. First AWP shot misses. He doesn't have a smoke for the cross, throws in the Molotov. It seems like he's caught in 2 minds as to exactly what it is that he wants to do here. He's second-guessing himself, and in the process, walks out into the open, and Magix takes his head clean off. Spirit get it done in 2. Train had a couple of potential banana peels, but ultimately, I think it's safe to say, Tom, the better team won today.
Yeah, a couple of hiccups along the way, but if they can get through to a grand final without really struggling too much, and on Dust 2, they were absolutely dominant. This definitely is looking like a good setup for them. Of course, we've got another semi-final to come, Vince, and I think that one's going to be a banger.
I definitely agree with you, Tom. That'll be after the break, though, guys. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the analyst desk.
Well, it was the 3rd time we saw Spirit pick Dust 2 this tournament, and they showed us exactly why with a diverse, dynamic T-side with one common denominator, Mir in the middle. And Blair, I want to ask you about that mid-lurk. How impactful was it? Because he seemed to do it almost every single round.
It's supremely impactful. I think it's only near the end, the latter portion of the first half, where they're able to take him down early on. But just the amount of space was creating was preventing them from going for any early flanks. And basically, Spirit could execute whatever they wanted. They were going for some really cool stuff as well, some mid-to-B takes, which really, honestly, I was looking at that. I'm like, you know what? Tier 1 teams would struggle against that. And it's telling because they have beaten Tier 1 teams in the past on this very map. So great stuff, not only from Mir. I love how he was kind of like the pivot point for the team, but overall, Spirit looks so good on the T side.
And sticking with the mid theme, Vu, Chopper was a dropper in the first half. You got a replay for us?
Yeah, there should be a replay here. Illuminar came into the game with another clear game plan. They knew this strat was coming here. They had 3 players ready for it, but Chopper dropping down into CT spawn, perfectly timed. The spacing here from Mir coming out middle, getting the trade. And despite Illuminar being prepared, I mean, shoutouts to IMD, clearly prepped his team for this series. Spirit's just the better team. They just had the aim on point and they knew what was going on mid-round. And some of their adjustments too were perfect.
Yeah, they've done the spiritual homework, right? But I don't understand, therefore, why Spirit were constantly able to go for mid, have that mid control on their T-side player.
I don't know. It's more like I don't feel like Illuminar were really prepped on this map, to be very honest, right? They did have some reactions at the end of that CD side of theirs, and then of course we saw Snacks really popping off. We had some heroic rounds coming out from them on that second half as well, but they weren't prepped for this, and it's very clear, it was very evident. Also, if you go back to Train, you look at Train, the T side, you knew they had a game plan coming in, and I feel like winning Train was an absolute necessity for Illuminar to maybe take the map number 3. The moment I saw that Start Spirit had, I feel like this was a done deal. And even if Illuminar had countered them, had tried to be a little bit more proactive on its CD side, kind of like poke and prod and make them uncomfortable, maybe you could have seen a different story, but I don't know. I wanted to actually talk about the pistol round, CD pistol round, right? A stack towards the B bomb side from the side of
Spirit.
From Spirit, yeah. And then they gave up long control and they caught the bomb in tunnels and it just pushed on and took it down. I mean, it is a little bit of a crazy round. It's a high risk round, but I wish Illuminar tried a few rounds like that earlier on in the first half. Maybe then it could have been a little closer, maybe.
Well, I want to give Snacks his dues as well, because he took a little bit of time to wake up on Train. But Vu, he really came out on Dust 2. And I kind of want to ask you about the fact that Snacks is a player. We know he takes up a lot of space, but he can do a lot with it. However, does that sacrifice the ability of the rest of his team to hold up their end of the bargain?
I mean, in theory, it shouldn't. I mean, when you look back at Train, it was, he had all he needed to do well, and he just couldn't quite do it. Missed a few kind of key shots. I think he went 2 and 6 in opening frags on Train. Coming on to Dust 2, he was hitting shot after shot. I mean, if you look at, one of the later rounds of the game, dropping down CT with a P250 on the flank, the jumping P250 around the corner, fooning it up from CT spawn. I don't think he required too much space there. I think he was just landing the shots, and it's a shame because if he had been doing that on Train, I think we'd likely be heading into map 3 here instead of having Spirit head into the finals.
One of my favorite things about watching Snacks, I know we haven't had a chance to see too much of Illuminar here, is just when Snacks is at the end of the round and he's just got an AWP for a scout and he's just wall banging. He did it on Nuke yesterday as well. He didn't get anything. Obviously, this time around, I think it was the second round, he actually did a great deal of damage. So if any Snacks fans out there just want to go through all his match history and just put together a beautiful frag movie of him just shooting walls, I would really appreciate that. Just tweet me. I will send you a nice message in response. Let's take a look at the bracket because we have our first finalist, guys. It is Spirit. We did expect this to happen.
I'm surprised.
Sorry. I was meant to be surprised then. Oh, God. I'm a terrible actor, it turns out. Apologies. But I'll try and act surprised when it comes to our second semi-final. It's going to be Gambit versus AGF. Oh, we have no idea who's going to win that one, Vu.
Oh, I mean, I guess maybe Gambit might win it, but maybe it's possible.
They're plucky underdogs, yeah.
It's you never count them out.
Okay, we're doing a terrible performance there because SDY just needed to just have a little comfort break. But he's here with us now, so let's get him in the chat room. Someday I'm going to ask the obvious question, but congratulations, you are in the DreamHack Open November final. I know you expected to make it, but what does it mean to know you're in that top 2?
Hello guys, it feels good and we are gonna prepare for the final, and that's it for now.
Okay. I want to ask a question going all the way back to Train. That 3D side of yours, Illuminar were abusing that IV area, right? And they were just coming out from IV, taking over the outer bomb side again and again and again. Is this something which surprised you a bit, that they seem to have done their homework, that you don't really go for heavy IV control?
Yeah, normally we don't have for heavy IV control, but we fucked up our strategy a few times with our combinations, because we just left IV open 2 times, and in this round they just push it, and we wasn't ready for this. So I think it's our mistake actually.
So with what Bless said there about them attacking Ivy, is this something where you're really working on what do we look like, what do opponents see from us, and you're counter-stratting yourself so you can have a game plan? What does that look like?
No, we don't think about counter-strat ourselves. We don't overthink at all. We just look at enemies' plays, their best tactics and things like that, and we prepare for that.
Brilliant. Well, it's going to be a best-of-5 final. You could be seeing AGF there. You could, however, be seeing Gambit. And last time you met them, it was in the... I just want to double-check this and get this exactly right. It was actually at IEM New York. And you did win. Oh, you won. But you lost on Dust too. So I'm just wondering how you feel going up against Gambit in a best-of-5, given they have a 6-strong map pool.
Yeah, first of all, we didn't play best of 5 in the long term, I think, already. And the Gambit have a good Dust too, that's what I remember. But I think we fixed our mistakes from the last time. And I think it's gonna be a Dust 2 in this best of 5 for sure. We just wanna show our best that we can do. Maybe some sick plays, comebacks like we did in last 2 games, something like that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for talking to us, Samdai Young, and we'll see you tomorrow evening for the finals.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
There we go. I think he's happy.
Can't really make out with Samdai Young.
I think it is Samdai Young always seems happy. So, I feel like he's also thinking about his English really hard and how he's talking to us. There's one lovely thing in his player room is in the background, there's a picture and it says, "I'm so proud of you." And his girlfriend got it for him when he went to Star Series Shanghai last year and played in the show match. Oh. So he was playing with some MIP and MIBR. So it was a really big moment for him. So his girlfriend's got a desk next to his, and sometimes she's gaming when he's playing. Just thought I'd hit you with some SDY facts, guys. And if you'd like to hear even more incredible Counter-Strike facts, then stick with us. We're going to be back very shortly in about 25 minutes time, aka 7:15 p.m. if you're in Europe. Use Google if you've got a time difference like Blair and Vu here, because unfortunately, I'm not very clever and can't work it out for you. We will see you very shortly indeed. Thanks for joining us.
Higher, baby. I need you all the time.